Tube. Great. We're on.
Oh, great. It looks like we're working. So everyone's ready to get started?
Ready.
Great. So welcome everyone to the 10-year memorial for Keaton Otis. We are excited to have worked out technology and be streaming live to Facebook and YouTube. We are going to start out with the wonderful Marilyn Keller sharing a song with us now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my church, Augustana Lutheran. Augustana is a thriving, multicultural, multinational, welcoming and affirming sanctuary servant congregation called by Christ to share the good news of God's love for all people. We are called by the Creator to work with our Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, Native American, and Christian sisters and brothers, and many people of just plain goodwill, to seek justice and peace in all the earth and to care for the creation for generations to come, as together we weave the beloved community. I greet you in the name of our pastor, Reverend Dr. Mark Knutson, and I've chosen for my musical selection to begin this evening, For All We Know. This song has become an anthem for my community, as we have lost many members in the ensuing pandemic and also in the past years. And I just caution us all to say we love each other whenever we get the chance to do it, and let those that we know, that we love, know that we care for them. For all we know, we may never meet again. Before you go, make this moment sweet again. We won't say goodnight until the last minute. I'll hold out my hand, and my heart will be in it. For all we know, this may only be a dream. We come and we go like the ripples on a stream. So love me tonight. Tomorrow was made for some. Oh, tomorrow may never come. For all we know, for all we know, tomorrow may never come. For all we know, for all we know, for all we know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marilyn, for that. We are figuring out a couple issues. So we do have Andrew, who is amazing and doing ASL interpretation for us. And we are just trying to make sure that that is showing up on all of the feeds. So we are going to keep working on behind the scene, and hopefully that will get figured out soon. So again, I want to welcome everyone to the 10-year memorial for Keaton Otis, a young Black man who was murdered by Portland police 10 years ago to this day. Thank you all so much for joining us in these times. My name is Walida Imarisha, and I am a writer and an educator, and I am part of the Justice for Keaton Otis Coalition. And we have been hosting these memorials and the monthly vigil for Keaton for 10 years. Thank you again, Marilyn Keller, for that beautiful opening song. And we will be hearing more from Marilyn at the end of the program as well. So this event is hosted by Justice for Keaton Otis, Pacific Northwest Family Circle, Asians for Black Lives, Showing Up for Racial Justice. And I really want to give a thanks to the planning committee, Maria, Sarah C., Sarah O., Cheyenne, Tal, Olive, and Emma. There, of course, was a big switch moving from in-person to online, as we have all been doing with events these days. I am definitely not the most technologically advanced person, so I am very thankful for the other members of the committee who have come together and really stepped up and created this virtual space, which is an extension of the monthly vigil space that we hold every month. And so, again, these are incredibly difficult times made catastrophic by structural inequalities and oppression. And it's important to recognize that wherever there is repression, there is resistance. And so we are coming here to mourn the loss of Keaton. We are coming here to honor him. And we are also here to imagine different futures and to build those into existence. And this event is part of that imagining for the future. And so I am going to share a little bit of background about Keaton and the monthly vigils. Here we go. So Keaton was a father, a son, a loved one, a community member. He was murdered 10 years ago to this day by Portland police. He was targeted by police with the gang enforcement team while he was driving. They said he kind of looked like a gangster because he was wearing a hoodie, because he was driving a car that they felt was too nice for him. The police followed Keaton for blocks. They pulled him over under the pretense of a traffic violation, and they quickly attacked him. After tasing Keaton multiple times while he sat in the driver's seat, 7 police officers surrounded him and fired 32 shots in 7 seconds. He was hit by 23 of those shots. The total time for all of this was 6 minutes. Later, police said Keaton had a gun, but have yet to produce it. There is a video of Keaton's assassination, and you can hear him begging on it, saying, "My hands are up," during this confrontation. Passersby before said that he asked them not to leave him because he was scared for his life. And right after on the video, you hear him say, "My hands are up." You hear the police say, "Let's do this," and open fire. And so, we unfortunately have seen so many of these videos of police misconduct and violence and murder, especially against Black and brown folks. And every single one of them is heartbreaking and tragic. in response to his murder, Keaton's father, Fred, began 6th and Halsey here in Portland, which is the spot where his son was murdered. Fred was there every month in the rain, in the heat, in the snow, every single month, demanding justice for his son, which he also knew was justice for the larger community. And Fred had a condition, his heart was too big, which is a medical condition. It was also just him. He was incredibly big-hearted and generous. His health deteriorated, and his doctors told him that if he did not reduce stress in his life, then he would die. And he said, I am not going to stop until I get justice for my son. And unfortunately, in October of 2013, Fred passed away. And so Fred is as much a victim of police violence as Keaton is, because it was the murder of his son and the refusal of a racist, unjust system to give him justice that caused Fred's death. After Fred passed away, folks in the community came together to carry on this mantle, to carry on the monthly vigils in Fred's name, in Keaton's name, in the name of everyone who has been lost in our community. And even during this pandemic last month, we had one person go in person, and then the rest of us met online. And as an extension of this incredibly important space that Fred, Keaton's father, started. So we will continue to hold these vigils every month until there is justice for Keaton and for Fred and for the community. So throughout this program, we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. You can submit notes for Keaton and Fred in the comments, and those will be shared at the end of the memorial. This is something that we have been doing for years, that is spearheaded by Asians for Black Lives. And in person, they create a space where folks can write notes directly to Keaton and to Fred, notes of love, notes of support, notes of remembrance, to make sure that we are not just thinking about people as names on a hashtag or a poster, but as folks who are loved in our communities. So we are going to be doing that virtually today. So if you would like to leave a note for Keaton or Fred, please do so in the comments. And then at the end of the program, Asians for Black Lives will share those out with us. So the first thing we are going to do, other than listening to Marilyn sing beautifully and listening to me stare at my computer screen and talk, we are going to share a video from Fred Bryant. Every year, this is incredibly difficult to do without Fred. I was lucky enough to meet Fred at one of the first vigils that he did and joined Justice for Keaton Otis, and was amazed and impressed by Fred, by his commitment, by his love for his son, by everything that he was doing to get justice. And it is hard to hold these without Fred. This is the 7th one without Fred. I hope that he would be happy and proud that we have continued this work, to see how deep his legacy has run in this community. And I want to play a video from Fred now from the documentary Arresting Power: Resisting Police Violence in Portland. This isn't all in the documentary, but it's from the interview that the filmmakers did with Fred, and they gave us access to the longer interview to share with you today. So we are going to share that now.
May 12, 2010, be announced to me Me and my daughter were sitting at home watching 5 o'clock news. And breaking news came on of a shooting. An officer had been shot, and a man had been shot. And so me and my daughter were just sitting there watching, and the lady took a video, and all we could hear was the audio because it wasn't big enough, they didn't. So we heard all the gunfire, and I just grabbed my chest. I said, why did they shoot that man like that? Why did they have to put so many bullets into him? I mean, it's like, I felt everyone, I just felt everyone, I just jerked. Every time you hear him go, I'm like, oh my God, so, it was sad because it's like,
No audio.
It's routine, it's been routine.
Oh, shoot.
You're always hearing the police are shooting. You never hear, well, they were apprehended and everything worked out safely. It's always the same ending. Always. Somebody dies. So we went along with the day, so the next day, it was in the newspaper. They didn't have a picture that time, but the name, because I didn't know what his mother's married name was, but I knew Keaton was an unusual name. You only know Michael Keaton, and that's all I know is Michael Keaton outside my Keaton. And so my wheels start turning, and my heart start pumping, and I was like praying to God, don't let this be. Come on now, just don't let this be. And so I was reading the paper, and then I noticed the address, and I knew that they lived out north. And so everything started building and building and building. And then, because that was Wednesday, and on Friday, they showed a picture of my son. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even breathe. Remind you that this is Friday, and I know their procedures.
I'm going to start over, everybody. Thanks for your patience.
May 12th, 2010, unbeknownst to me and my daughter were sitting at home watching 5 o'clock news. And breaking news came on of a shooting. An officer had been shot, and a man had been shot. And so me and my daughter were just sitting there watching, and the lady took a video, and all we could hear was the audio because it wasn't big enough to, they didn't. So we heard all the gunfire, and I just grabbed my chest. I said, why did they shoot that man like that? Why did they have to put so many bullets into him? I mean, it's like, I felt everyone, I just felt everyone, I just jerked. Every time you hear him go, I'm like, oh my God, so, it was sad because it's like, it's routine, it's been routine. You're always hearing the police are shooting. You never hear, well, they were apprehended and everything worked out safely. It's always the same ending. Always. Somebody dies. So we went along with the day, so the next day, it was in the newspaper. They didn't have a picture that time, but the name, because I didn't know what his mother's married name was, but I knew Keaton was an unusual name. We only know Michael Keaton, and that's all I know is Michael Keaton outside my Keaton. And so my wheels start turning, and my heart start pumping, and I was like praying to God, don't let this be. Come on now, just don't let this be.
And so I was reading the paper, and then I noticed the address, and I knew that they lived out north. And so everything started building and building and building. And then, because that was Wednesday, and on Friday, they showed a picture of my son. I couldn't even breathe. I couldn't even breathe. Remind you that this is Friday. And I know their procedures. I know that they contact parents. And I wasn't contacted. So Friday, I went down to the police station, told them who I was, and they came back to me and said, well, nobody's investigating that case right now. I kept my composure because I knew it was a lie. I knew it was a lie. I knew that something went terribly wrong, and it wasn't on my son's part. Because you just don't not get a hold to both parents.
What?
Unless something terribly went wrong. And usually it's the dad, especially being African American. Usually he's the last one that they want to get a hold to. Because they already think we're angry anyway. Well, they're right, we are angry. For the most part, we know how to contain our anger, though. They said they couldn't find me. They didn't have an address on me. I said, right, yeah, I possess ID. I'm an Oregon resident. I pay taxes. Why can't you find me? So I let it go and went on into the meeting. And was talking to the district attorney was talking to me, and he made comments that, and I had some family members with me, and he said to me, your son shot an officer, and I have 44 witnesses that prove it. And he shot from a Crown Royal bag at this officer. And so I said to him, well, have you done gun residue checks? Did you check his fingerprints to match it to the gun? And, you know, well, his response was, well, he shot from the bag. So I'm like, so what do you mean? He grabbed the bag and just pulled the bag, or just pulled the trigger from the bag, not even, his hand not even in the bag? In the bag? And so I didn't want to get into this technical thing with him, but one of his remarks were that really irritated me so bad, to insult my intelligence in such a manner, to say, well, they only do that in the movies. So you're telling me you don't check for fingerprints or gun residue? That's only in Hollywood.
Well, thank you so much. So that was Fred Bryant speaking, and we are going to hear more from him later on. At the end, we have another clip of Fred that we'll be sharing. So I wanted to share with folks we have a request for folks to join us online. If you've been following our
Facebook or following the hashtag Justice for Keaton Otis, which is the hashtag that we use, you will see that we have been asking folks to post pictures of altars for Keaton and for Fred. I have set up some behind me, though it is mostly blocked by my afro right now. But we have seen some beautiful things that folks have set up. And so we are hoping that other folks will join us in posting a picture of an altar that you have built for Keaton and Fred, or that you have added them to, or a sign or art, anything that moves you. So we have some information here. So this is a way to extend this space that we're creating here into our homes. It's a way for us to mourn together and connect together, even though we're physically distant. So we're asking if folks today or tomorrow can build an altar or add to an existing one, share a sign, share some art, whatever you feel comfortable with, but use the hashtag Justice for Keaton Otis so we can all follow along. And you can find some examples already on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So those are there and are available at this point. And I think really just rooting in this notion of it being a sacred space and recognizing that the monthly vigils, which this is an extension of, are rooted in Black love and Black care, because they were created by Fred's love of his son and of his community and justice. And so that is the foundation of that, and that is the foundation that we have rooted in today and will continue to root in as we do this work to get justice for Keaton. So we have another video we wanted to share, if that will work right now. It is from Irene Kalanji, who is part of the Pacific Northwest Family Circle. That is an incredible organization. Everyone should definitely check them out. They are made up of loved ones of people who have been murdered by the police. And it is very powerful work. So Irene is one of the founders of it, and she lost her son to police. We are going to share so people can hear her words and hear her voice as part of this.
Hi everyone, my name is Irene Kalonji. I'm co-founder of Pacific Northwest Family Circle organization, which unite family who lost loved one to police violence. Most of you probably know me, but who don't know, I just want to tell. I lost my son Christopher Kalonji 4 years ago. He was killed by Clackamas Sheriff during the mental crisis on January 28, 2016. After I lost my son, two persons stepped in my life. It was Joanne Hardesty and Jason Renaud. From Joanne, I had the first local story about how police killing our children, and it was a story about Keaton Otis. I had a story about Fred Bryant, the dad of Keaton Otis, and she invited me to monthly vigil for Keaton Otis. The vigil was started by Fred, who started to fight for justice for his son. And when I went to vigil, I met a lot of amazing people who give me support and show the way we can fight for our loved one who get mad by police. Since the first region for Keat, I started to come every month and start to be a part of my life and part of community that I love. I just want to continue this to honor the life of Keaton and his dad Fred. And today, making 10 years since we lost Keaton. We cannot meet in person, but it's so important for us that we can do the best that we can do. We can let world know that we remember you, Keith and Fred. We're still here and we're still fighting. We will remember you, Keith. We will remember you, Fred, and we feel your spirit and your support in our mission to bring a justice for our angel whose life was stolen. Thank you all for being here, for Keith and Fred, for our loved one who was taken from us. Hope see you in person soon. Sending my love to all of you, and thank you.
Wonderful. So powerful to have Irene Kalanji as part of this. She's definitely one of my heroes. And so I'm very thankful we were able to have her important work and voice as part of this. The next person who is joining us is Joe Bean Keller. He is a community leader and community figure. He is also the father of Deontay Keller, who was murdered by police in February 28th, 1996. He has been tireless in his efforts to try and get justice for his son and to get justice for the larger community around these issues. And so please welcome Joe Bean Keller, welcome him from your house as he is joining us now.
This is a little different. This is the first time for me, being on Zoom. So, and I want to first of all thank you for putting this together, and I want to thank you guys for the continuous work you've been doing for all of these years, because I've been a part of some of the sessions that you guys have had for Keaton, but you guys have been doing it on a continuous for all these years, and so I really much want to appreciate you for that, just following after Fred's death as well too. And Fred and I were very good friends. I knew Fred since we were grade school kids. We were kids playing on 17th Street, basically. So I knew a lot about Fred. I knew the make of Fred and just his personality. And, one thing I do want to say is that activism is not for everyone. When you lose a child, it's a personal thing, but then at the same time, it can trigger another part of you. And, Fred, God rest his soul, he worked hard, he worked tirelessly, and it took a lot out on him. And there's other families across the country that are feeling the same way, that the stress has been so heavy from losing loved ones, and it basically has killed them. And as a father of a son that was murdered by police in 1996, 24 years later, I'm still standing strong and still fighting for change, basically, and other things that are going on. My son Deontay was, he was shot in the back and murdered by police officer Terry Kruger on February 28th, 1996. And it's funny because now, 24 years later, justice is actually being served on that particular officer, because somehow he kind of, slid through the process, even though not only had he murdered my son, he had murdered another man named by the name of Ronald Ripley, who had mental issues. He came to the door with an umbrella, and he said that he thought the umbrella was a rifle, so he basically shot this man and killed him. But again, 20 something odd years later, he is promoted to a police chief in a different county, a different section of Oregon, basically, in West Lynn. But now, truth be told, it's going to be a lot. Things aren't going to, it's not going to look good for him right now, because 20 years ago, I put together an untold story. An untold story was to cover up the conspiracy of the murder of my son that was shot in the back, in which 3 months before it was time to go to court on a multi-million-dollar case. After 3.5 years of working on it, my attorney basically was paid off by the city attorneys to ask the judge to dismiss him from the case, knowing that within 3 months I would not have time to redo this whole case itself. But not only that, after I got the documents and put all this information together, come to find out that the case in which he had put different than the information that was at hand. And so since that time, like I say, 20 years ago, I put together a website, The Untold Story of Deontay J. Keller, and you can go to DeontayJKeller.com. That's DeontaeJ Keller, KELLER.com. And it would open up the untold story that would reveal the conspiracy to cover up in the murder of Deontay, and which is now a part of a major DOJ investigation with this officer in it from a Westland situation that had been taking place. So, like I say, 24 years later, justice is being served. So that's why I commend you guys 10 years on this anniversary of Keaton Otis, that we're still fighting for justice, because justice sometimes takes a long time. But some people don't have the patience to go through it. And some weather out, some fall down, some hurt themselves, some are intimidated by the system itself. But you have to be a little bit bigger than the system and know that you're going to be all right, because if you got God behind you, God's going to make a way. You got to have faith, and you have to have patience to make this happen. And so, like I say, I'm going to be with this fight. I'm going to be with this family. I'm going to be with this movement until, because, like I say, Kendra James, her dad, Kenny was my best friend, my bass player in my band. Jahad Perez family, I know the Perez family. So the majority of the people, the young people that were murdered by the police, I was a part of their family. I've been a part of their family for a number of years. So this epidemic that's going on, as I see a young lady, I can't remember exactly which state it was just recently murdered by the police. So they're still murdering us, during the corona epidemic. We're still having to fight and defend ourselves. Just as black men, young men, you can't even go out jogging without being shot. So the system is being corrupt. So, I have to say this right now. Make sure that you vote. It is very important that you vote. Very, very important that you vote in order to make a change, because if we don't try to change the system somehow from the inside out, it's not going to change, because it's not designed for us. And many young black men, women are going to be victims of police or just white brutality, basically, because of the fact that they've been given this red carpet treatment of it's all right. No, it's not all right, and we're not going to stand for it. So we have to stand strong and stay committed to being a visual that we're not going to let you do this anymore. We're not going to let you just put things in place where you want to be in place. We're going to stand up. We are going to be accountable, and we're going to make a difference. Thank you, Ali. I'll come back. If you guys want me to come back, I'll still be here, but I just wanted to put that out there just to let you know. But like I say, if you want to go to the website, DeontayJKeller.com, see the untold story of the conspiracy and the cover up and the murder of my son, Deontay J. Keller. Because like I say, there is evidence. There is a lot of things. And it's like most people don't get a chance to see and get the information I got. And all of the documents that you see on this website are documents that came from the city. This is all their information that I threw back in their face. But like I say, if my attorney would have put the proper case together, the grand jury would never have allowed this to take place. This case would have set a precedence 20 some odd years ago, and we would not have had all of these chains of police murders that took place within the last 24 years. So now we're going to have to make a difference, and we can all stand up as a group and make this happen. Thank you very much, and I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you so much, Joe Bean Keller. That's such powerful, inspiring words, and so thankful for your efforts and your work on this for so long, for your son and for the community. And I want to share with folks, I actually have a slide that I made up that has the website. So here folks can see that the address for DeontayJKeller.com to learn more about this case. So please do educate ourselves about these ongoing struggles for justice. Again, I want to remind folks to submit notes for Keaton and for Fred in the comments, just to write a note of love, a note of support, a note of remembrance to Keaton, to Fred, in the comments, whatever. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, just add them in the comments, and then we will be sharing those at the end of the gathering. So next up, I want to bring Dan Handelman to the screen. He is with Portland Cop Watch, which is an incredibly important organization that has the violence and the violations and the brutality of Portland police for decades. And so he is going to give us a short update and just some information that helps us to see this is about Keaton and this is about so much more.
I'm sorry that you can't see me. I'm sorry you can't see me, and but it's only fair because I can't see anybody else really that's listening to me. So I just want to say I cannot believe that it's been 10 years since the police killed Keaton Otis. Inspired by the activism of Dickie Dow's family, who held a monthly vigil for 4 years after Dickie was beaten to death in 1998, Fred Bryant started these vigils, and he was a man driven to seek justice for his son. I'd like to acknowledge the work of now Commissioner Hardesty, of Walida, of Black Lives Matter, Pacific Northwest Family Circle, and others who have coordinated or co-coordinated this vigil over the years, particularly since we lost Fred. 10 years is a nice round number to look back and see how things have changed. So here are a few things that I found when I'm comparing 2010 to 2020. First of all, in our presentation to the judge overseeing the city's agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice, which supposedly is to ensure a reduction in use of force, particularly for people with mental illness, Portland Cop Watch found an uptick in deadly force looking in 5-year chunks. In the 5 years preceding the death of Aaron Campbell, which triggered the DOJ agreement, 15 people were subjected to deadly force by on-duty Portland officers. From 2010 to 2014, while the DOJ agreement was being finalized, that number was 23 people, including Keaton, which was a 53% increase. From 2015 to 2019, there were 27 more deadly force incidents, which was a 17% increase over those previous 5 years, and a total increase of 80% over the late 2000s. Recently, Chief Resch asked the community for help in lowering the amount of gun violence in Portland, but every one of the 6 people shot